Hello, everybody. This video is going to be very different than any other videos I've done. I'm just going to get right into it. You know, one of my younger sisters recently, actually just today, as I was having dinner with my wife, reached out to me, messaging me about what's going on in Portland, Oregon, because that's where she lives right now. That's where that's where my whole family lives in the Portland area in Oregon. And as you know, there's a lot going on over there with ICE, with troops, the National Guard, the riots, Antifa, the drug issues, the homeless issue, the human trafficking issues, and the immigrations, right? And of course, the media is telling us all kinds of things depending on what media channel you're looking into, whether if it's liberal, ideologies of the issues or Republican beliefs on the issues. Uh, the whole thing is very chaotic, and my sister was reaching out to me, asking me when was the last time I talked to my father. Um, my father is a U.S. citizen as of 2020, which was, by the way, during Trump's campaign, Trump's presidential uh, presidency. My father became a U.S. citizen during Trump's presidency, is what I'm trying to say. Um, but he's been a legal resident here my entire life, and he works really hard, and he's worked really hard to gain citizenship. And I have a lot of family who are undocumented. I have a lot of friends who are undocumented from Oregon and California. So many friends, so many people dear and close to me that I love. I'm no longer in contact with anybody in this current life that I have now, but I love all of these people that I've grown up with. And so of course this is heartbreaking for me. And my sister is asking me when was the last time I talked to my father, and I haven't talked to him in a few months. Him and I had kind of a falling out the last time we were in the same space together. So I will be calling him, soon, this weekend. But she was telling me how afraid my father is right now, and my uncle, and my sisters, and everybody else, and how my father's just paranoid carrying his passport and his real ID, and trying to avoid Portland. He runs a landscaping business, and my uncle is choosing not to come to work because he's just afraid, not knowing what's going to happen. And I asked my sister, do you know anybody personally, directly, that has been impacted by this? And she shared with me a few stories. My sister works at a retirement nursing facility. She works in the kitchen of a nursing home, and she said that one of the CNAs was stopped at a gas station and taken by ICE. And then she told me of another person that she knows directly, who's really close to one of her best friends. Um, he got picked up by ICE right in the town where I'm from, where I grew up and lived for many years. And they picked him up very aggressively. He has permanent residency in America. I don't know his story. I don't know anything. I'm just saying what my sister told me. But still, they grabbed him. They took him, and when they grabbed him, they didn't buckle him in the seatbelt. They didn't close the door. They just threw him in the car and sped off. And as they sped off, you know, the man that they grabbed fell out of the car, shattered his spine, and had to have surgery, emergency surgery, where they put bolts and plates in his fucking spine, and then shipped, and then has been held in Tacoma, Washington, getting ready for an overnight deportation back to Mexico. And from what I know through my sister, this man is a good man. Um, she doesn't know of any bad history of him. He has permanent residency, but the behavior, the violent behavior, and the way they handled him, and now he's injured for life. He shattered his spine, and they just put bolts and plates in him, and he's getting no medical treatment. He could be in severe pain right now. He could be having an infection at some point. He could die from the worst case scenario. And this is very, very heartbreaking. Even a couple weeks ago, I had a dream about my uncle, and I woke up crying, just feeling my uncle. And I didn't know why, but now I know it's because of this going on. They're living in extreme fear right now, and this is very heartbreaking. And I want you to know that 10 years ago, when Trump first became president, this is what initiated me to become a community organizer all those years ago, so that way I can learn the system, learn how to advocate and protect those that I care about, from possibly being deported by racist Trump, right? But when he was president during that time, and I developed in my career as a community organizer, I didn't see any of the things happening right now. I didn't know of anybody that was deported or anything like that. Nothing happened in that fashion. And over the years of becoming a community organizer and learning more and more things happening in the world, um, I took a huge step back and reevaluate everything that I once believed about what is happening. Okay. And that's where I kind of made a shift in myself and in my stance of things. And on the way home, I called my sister, and we were on the phone, and just wanting to let her know that, that I love her and that this is really fucked up. And and I mentioned to her that, that we are seeing this intensity of deportation right now, across the country, as a result of Biden's open borders. And I said that to her, and she immediately reacted with a strong emotional response that was, filled with agitation. And her response was, "Now tell me what's so bad about that. Tell me what's so bad about people coming over here. Tell me what's so bad about that." And I had to bring her some perspective, and I had to bring her some perspective, and explaining to her, sister, you had to understand that during Biden's presidency with the open borders, there were literally tens of thousands of people crossing the border from all over the world, not just Mexico, not just South America, but people from all over the world were crossing the border in the tens of thousands daily, weekly. And she was like, "Well, what's wrong with that? What harm can that bring?" And I understood, her feelings. I understood what she was going through because I've been there. I get it. And I had to bring her the perspective and say, this is a whole lot more complicated than you could ever really understand. More complicated than I could even understand. But I know some things. And I explained to her that that is an insane amount of number to suddenly come into America, over the last 4 years. And I explained to her, um, excuse me. Yeah, I explained to her that within these numbers, that there is a lot of bad people, ill-intent people, trained ill-intent people that are associated with worldwide, international, black market criminal activity, drug trafficking, human trafficking, organ trafficking, fuck ton of bad things. And I had to explain to her, look, you don't think about those things because you're only thinking about what you see within your reality. And what you see in your reality are your friends and family. And because we come from an upbringing of an immigrant father, from a family and a community of immigrants, we know the struggle. We know our hearts. We know what it was like to grow up in poverty. We know what it was like to have parents that didn't speak English and to translate very serious things as children to our parents and having to mature at a very young age, becoming hyper aware of the world. We we feel this in such a deep personal way, and we feel attacked. We feel unsafe. And for us, that's all we see. That's all we think is happening is this. So for folks that are really intensely afraid of what's happening right now, to them it's like deport all the illegals, right? It's this intense, hard language and narrative. Deport all the illegals, and then a lot of racism gets involved in it too. And there's tons of stupid fucking people out there who think it's about race and become racist, and all this sort of just creates a huge chaotic mess. And I had to explain to her, Melanie, like, how much of the organized crime do you think about, you know? And I has explained to her, look, I personally believe that majority of the numbers of people who have come across the borders are genuinely good people, just like you and I and our family and everyone we know, just reaching for a dream, trying to come to America and live a better life. I do believe that majority of folks are good people and mean good things, but there is a percentage hiding in that number. And this is very tactical. This is military tactical maneuvers to create confusions and diversions. And within these massive amounts of numbers, there is a substantial percentage of organized crime, cartels, and military invaders from other countries coming within those large numbers. And when something like this happens, it creates an emotional response in folks like us, and we begin fighting for those that we love, but also not knowing that we're also protecting a huge underground criminal market that we're not thinking about as well. And I had to express to my sister, look, I mean this in the most sensitive, sincerest way that I could possibly emulate through my energy. But this is what it is. This is collateral damage, and it's fucked up. And I don't want it to happen. I don't want anything to happen to our family. I don't want anything to happen to our friends or anyone that we know that is a good person and could possibly be a fucking brilliant person for the world, for America, given all the opportunities. I don't want anything bad to happen to these people, to the poor man who had his fucking spine shattered. That is absolutely awful. But the truth of the matter is that this is collateral damage in trying to clean up what has happened and trying to maneuver through the chaos of who's who has come here and who's who, what have they done, what can we do? And unfortunately, it's probably easier for the government to just grab them all and send them all back instead of, spending all the time and the hours and the research and the information to really pinpoint who's who in all of this, mass migration. And I was further posing questions to my sister, asking her, you know about La Diabla, the woman that they're calling La Diabla, that was recently arrested? Martha Alicia Mendez Aguilar, a leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, known as La Diabla, was arrested in Juarez, Mexico on September 2nd, 2025. Her arrest was part of a joint operation involving U.S. intelligence agencies and Mexican law enforcement. Her charges: Aguilar is accused of leading a horrific infant trafficking network. The network reportedly lured pregnant women to remote locations and performed illegal cesarean procedures, harvesting the organs from the mothers and then sold the newborns to couples in the US. They were murdering pregnant women, taking the babies out of the belly, harvesting the organs of the now murdered mothers, and selling these infant babies to couples in the US. Intelligence assistance. The operation was made possible with critical intelligence and analysis provided by the US National Counterterrorism Center. Interagency cooperation. The arrest was a collaborative effort between Mexican authorities and several U.S. agencies, including the U.S. Marshals Service, the FBI's El Paso office, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection. On the ground execution, Mexican law enforcement, including the Special Prosecutor's Office for Women, executed the operation on the ground. Aguilar remains in Mexican custody, and the investigations into the trafficking ring is ongoing. This was just not even 2 months ago. This woman was arrested in a collaboration with American government and Mexican government. We're talking about hundreds of murders of innocent pregnant women, hundreds of babies being forcefully taken out of the mother's wombs and sold to who knows what, to who knows where, and these organs as well. And I had to challenge my sister's understanding in what's going on by asking her, where are those all going? Where are those babies? Where are those organs going? To America. Who's bringing them to America? Who's trafficking to the America? And for how long has this been going on? You have to really think about that. Who is buying these? What Americans are buying these organs? What Americans are buying these infant babies? Not good ones. You have to really understand that there's massive, dark things happening in this world on a global scale. And it is so fucking sad what's happening right now, because there are good people. My father is an amazing man. Despite our differences, despite what with him and I go through, I will always love him. I will always respect him. My uncle is an angel in my life. And all the friends and family that I know, some of the best memories, some of the best people. I don't want anything to happen to these people. So I'm not coming from a side of pro-Trump, I'm Republican, deport them all, send them all. I'm coming from a place of really trying to understand what's happening and not trying to have an emotional reaction by feeling my safety threatened right now. Because that was my response 10 years ago during Trump's first presidential run, his campaign in 2015 and 2016. When I first started hearing those videos and all that shit before I knew things going on, I hated the guy. And then when he actually became president, I became very afraid. Oh my God, oh my God, is he going to deport everybody? What can I do? And I started working for nonprofits. I actually created a whole career that developed in 4 or 5 years and ended up, working for an amazing nonprofit where I was being paid, fuck, I think it was like 50, 55 grand a year. A really good money doing really good work. And I learned a lot of things. But over the years, I also began to see a lot of things because part of what comes with the job of being a community organizer is going out and reaching to the people, going out and organizing spaces for community and people to come and gather so we can talk, so we can learn, so we can process and organize ourselves to make some type of difference in the things happening in our city, in our state, and in our country. And over the years, there were many things I began to notice. And eventually I noticed within myself that I actually don't know fucking shit that's going on. All I know is a narrative that was handed down from someplace else that I read off a script and learned how to regurgitate and back with fucking, half-true information about climate change and all this other shit. I became a puppet. But I'm a critical thinker, and it was only going to be a matter of time for me to recognize the patterns. And so I gradually started to pull away from that scene and take my energy back and look at things differently. And when 2020 came around and when George Floyd was sacrificed, right? He was sacrificed literally the day after my birthday, May 25th. When George Floyd was sacrificed and all these riots were happening across the country for weeks, for months during COVID lockdowns. And I left my job and left Oregon and started traveling the country. And as I'm seeing my city burn up in flames by people rioting for human rights and Black Lives Matter, it all started to fall into place. And I started to realize I have been seeing behind the scenes organizations, some of them colleagues. Okay, I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in where some random person comes in, has this very interesting, chaotic, intense energy, and starts planting seeds. And I started to realize that was a recruiter. That was a recruiter for Antifa. That was a recruiter for this. That was somebody who was spinning narratives and planting seeds and weaving webs. Who is that person? Who's paying them? Who do they work for? What do they actually do? And I realized that everything that was unfolding during 2020 with those riots was pre-planned for. They started organizing themselves. They started calling themselves Antifa, anti-fascists. They started meeting in secret. They started thinking that they were something very real and that they were going to do something and that they were fighting for something just, not knowing that they were also just being honeypotted with their good intentions because deep down I know they just want a better world, but they're misguided and confused. They were honeypotted. And it started to all make sense to me during 2020 when those riots were going down. Okay. And the thing you have to understand is this is happening on both sides. The thing that I understood is something that happens in Oregon, in Portland, Oregon, with this whole intense racialness is we have the liberals and the anti-fascists, right? They're good. They're going to protect, they stand for progressiveness and they hate tyranny and fascism, right? And then we have this other group that is the opposite, the Proud Boys, good old American boys, right? And then in Portland, Oregon, you hear of stories of Proud Boys wearing swastikas and part of the KKK driving trucks at night trying to find, black people to beat them up and sometimes that was actually happening. But what I also began to learn, same fucking shit. There are masterminds on the other side that are honeypotting and bringing in confused and misguided white boys to be honeypotted into that group. And then they program that they build them up, they enrage them. And then there's all this fucking media shit that goes on. So both sides have been conditioned by the same fucking hands via agents. This is what you have to understand. There's so much happening. And I had to ask my sister, where are all those kids? Where are all those kids that came across the border during Biden's presidency that are missing? Hundreds of thousands of kids that are missing. Hundreds of thousands of kids that were given to anybody that just could just go to a website and register themselves as a family fucking host. Do you know how many fucking pedophiles and rapists there are in America and in the world? It's a really uncomfortable amount of people. And there were no background checks for any of this shit going on. So, yes, this is fucked up. And because of how fucked up it is, there's going to be some fucked up, heartbreaking collateral damage. And my intent in speaking all of this and sharing with all of this is for those of you that are just like my sister, just like my family, and just like how I once was, to understand that this isn't an attack or coming from a malice or a hatred towards you. America loves Mexico. America loves Mexicans. America was built on immigrants. But what we are dealing with is a massive breach in national safety and security, and it is chaotic. You have to understand that. And I know, oh, well, no human is illegal. Oh, well, and I know, well, this was once Mexico, this was once Native Americas, and blah, 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 blah. Well, we're in the here and now. And borders are important for a reason. Borders have been around for thousands of years across the world. They're very important. But what I want you guys to understand is beyond all the media, beyond all the other fucking idiots out there are a lot of fucking dumb Americans out there. And I know you're seeing it. I know you're seeing the hatred from those fucking idiots. I know you're seeing the comments. Deport those illegals. Oh, this sort of stuff. I know you're seeing all of that stuff. And all that stuff is just validating and confirming your view and your perspective on what's happening, which is that we live in a racist country and they're out to get you and you have no human rights and you're less than dirt because you're an illegal, dirty immigrant Mexican or wherever the fuck you came from. That's not the matter. That's not the matter. Don't mind those fucking idiots. They're low IQ, stupid fucking people. And they're not the ones that are signing the orders. They're not the ones that are sending out military and troops. Higher government powers are sending those out. And they're sending those out understanding that there is a major crisis and it is not about race, it's about national security, it's about the safety of children, and it is about a worldwide black market organization happening right now. Did you know just a few months ago? Look, here are a few things that happened just this year alone. Okay. Largest fentanyl bust in DEA history, May 2025. In a record-shattering operation, the DEA and its partners arrested 16 individuals and seized massive quantities of drugs, cash, and firearms, dismantling a major trafficking organization connected to the Sinaloa cartel. The seizures included 396 kilograms, which is 873 pounds of fentanyl pills, 11.5 kilograms, 25.3 pounds of fentanyl powder, 116,000 dollars in US currency and 49 firearms. An announcement of justice in July 15 highlighted the DEA's success of 44 million fentanyl pills, 4,500 pounds in fentanyl powder, 4,500 pounds of fentanyl powder. That's more than a fucking ton. Are you understanding this? Are you understanding what's fucking going on? You've seen the videos of the people high on fucking drugs. You've seen the videos of people picking up dollar bills that are coated in some kind of drug and then being taken by some fucking human traffickers, women, children, kidnapped, being picked up from the streets of America. Who's doing that? Who are these people? Where are these drugs coming from? Where are those people going? And why isn't the news talking about it? No, they're talking about what's going to get you in a reaction mode to protect their black market. So while you think you're marching the streets protecting your friends and your family, they're using you. They're using you to make noise and to make an uproar and to create a resistance in the cleanup of the civil war going on. We are in civil fucking war. And that's what you're not understanding. In Seattle, more takedowns of Sinaloa cartels, 269 pounds of fentanyl, part of a major operation. This is just from this year alone. And then, about a month or so ago, 1,300 barrels of precursor chemicals, meaning chemicals that you use to make something else. 1,300 massive fucking barrels, multiple semi trucks full of precursor chemicals to make fucking meth. What is that? What is that? That's warfare. That is terrorism. That is attack on the American people. I have an aunt who died of fentanyl laced heroin. It killed her. She was a lifelong heroin addict, done heroin, shot up in the neck, all kinds of stuff. She knew how to dose her shit, but she got some shit laced with fentanyl, killed her. My mom, a lifelong meth addict. So many people who've experienced, who are wounded by this drug war of people. Look at the streets of Portland, those homeless people doing drugs. Where are the fucking drugs coming from? Are you understanding this? This is so far more complicated, and it's not just racism and fuck the illegals, deport them. There's a major crisis going on. 1,300 massive fucking barrels confiscated. And these chemicals, you know where these chemicals came from? China. These chemicals came from China and were shipped to Mexico, received by Mexican cartels, and smuggled into the border of America for what fucking reason? To make so much fucking drugs and spread it across America, killing millions of people. This is so much more complicated than you could ever fucking imagine. And yes, I voted for Trump. I don't think he's a savior. I don't think, and I'm trying not to think anything other than I don't know anything. But I do believe that he was the right one to be in office versus Kamala. I do believe that Kamala would have further pushed us down a very, very dark timeline, but you guys don't understand that. You guys don't see it that way. I was there. I was there. I was conditioned. I was there. I was so there that I made a fucking career out of organizing protests, out of organizing people. I put my whole fucking heart and soul into that. I was on the front lines. I started to see, I started to question. What happened to the children? Where are these children? Who's adopted them? Who's buying these organs? Who's buying these babies? What happened to Diddy? What's going on with Diddy? What's going on with Epstein? What's going on with all these things? What's going on with all the children that have gone missing in Virginia? What is really happening? Or do you even think about it? What is really happening? And I also had to explain to my sister, look, even though I believe majority of the folks that have migrated here are really good people, and I want them to have all the opportunities and be assisted, even though there's a majority, when it comes to the percentage of the evil, the majority becomes irrelevant, and then it's collateral damage. And I had to explain that to my sister. Think back during Nazi Germany. Do you think majority of Germans were possibly peaceful? Were majority of Germans not wanting to see a huge Holocaust to happen? Majority of Germans weren't Nazis, but the percentage that were organized, were violent, were taking action, and initiated, leading us into world wars. When it comes to the percentage, the small percentage of active evil that organizes, the majority of peaceful becomes irrelevant until you fight against that, till you put that out, stand up against that. Muslims, right? Supposedly, a majority of Muslims are peaceful, right? There's a fucking big percentage that's not. There's a big fucking percentage that's a huge problem. And that percentage makes everything else irrelevant. Look at what's happening in Europe. Are you even seeing what's happening in Europe? All the rapes, all the kidnappings, all the stabbings and the killings? Are you aware of Europeans being arrested and serving time in fucking jail for a Facebook post while fucking Jihad Muhammad rapes a fucking 9-year-old girl and gets a slap on the wrist and only serving 100 hours of community service? The fuck does that mean? What do you think of that? What do you think of that? This is war. This is tactical. This is strategic. And you have to really pull yourself back and see how you are being used. And I'm so fucking sorry. But in war, there's always collateral damage. And it fucking hurts. And I'm scared too. I don't want anything to happen to anyone that I love. I don't. I'm scared to receive the phone call of something happening to my family. My niece, my niece is cutting herself. She's 14 years old and she's cutting herself because she's seeing ICE. She's hearing the stories. She's hearing the adults talk in the way that they're talking, and she's lost and she's confused. And the only way she can express herself is by cutting herself. What the fuck? We have a massive problem, not just in America, but in the world. This is not an attack on you. We need to see this so we can come together and understand what's really going on. And I'm so fucking sorry. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to decondition your mind and how you are seeing things. But with everything that I have pointed out to you, with all the questions that I posed to you, with the facts of the drugs, with the facts of La Diabla and you have to really consider these things. Really consider who is buying the organs, who is buying these babies. You have to really consider these things and face the truth. God knows what's in your heart. And speaking of God, I'll end this with this because this is how the phone call ended with my sister. Right now, the South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in Pisces. The South and the North Node are known as the nodes of fate. The South Node represents the past. The South Node represents accumulated karma. It represents past lives. It represents familiarity and comfort zones. The North Node represents the future. The North Node represents fate and destiny. The North Node is the unknown, the unexplored. And in astrology, we are taught to look towards the North Node. We are taught to grow beyond the South Node, beyond the energy of the South Node, and grow and develop towards the North Node, because that's the next level of our higher calling, of our destiny. And when the South Node is in Virgo, it triggers karmic memories within the collective of the importance of perfectionism. Virgo is analytical. People who are born with South Node Virgos, these are people who lived lifetimes where they were doctors, where they were nurses, where they were surgeons. These people lived lifetimes where they played a role where being crucially aware of all the details meant life or death. So for them, everything needed to be in control. When the South Node is in Virgo, we have a tendency to feel like everything needs to be in control, in our control. Everything needs to be going according to our plan, going according to the perfection that we want for ourselves, for our lives. And so when the South Node's traveling through Virgo, there are a lot of things that happened that stir up anxiety and fear because there is this heart flutter memory of if it doesn't go right, it means death. It means the worst. So there is a lot of anxiety right now in the collective with the South Node being in Virgo. The South Node has been in Virgo since February of this year and will be in Virgo for several more months. We're only halfway through. We got about 10 more months of the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces. And so collectively, we're going through this karmic experience of seeing things in chaos and being afraid of that and focusing on too many details and trying to control all the details and being overwhelmed by so much information. We have to look to the North Node. What is the North Node in Pisces? What is the North Node trying to guide us through this energy, this karmic energy? What is Pisces? Pisces is our belief, our spiritual practice, our faith. Pisces is an energy that connects us with the divine, with the supernatural. Pisces is the energy that allows us to activate and experience Christ consciousness, to experience oneness and transcend this realm. So, with the North Node in Pisces, what we are supposed to be moving to right now is in our faith. And the way the mantras and the attitudes we need to be adopting with all the chaos happening in our lives personally and in our lives as a global collective is that there is our plans that we have intended, there are our desires that we have intended, but then there's God's plan. But then there's a greater plan. But then there's the universe's plan. And those shit's crazy and fucked up. And I don't know where things are going to end up. I know that no matter what, God's got me. God's got me. God's got my family. And I need to put faith in that. How often have you been praying? Sincerely, genuinely praying. Not from an ego perspective, but from the heart, the higher heart. How often are you doing that daily? How often are you putting your faith over fear? How often are you reminding yourself that though things are beyond your control and are crazy, you're surrendering it to it all? Because what the fuck are we going to do? What the fuck are we going to do right now? What the fuck are we going to do? More protests? More going out into the streets and fighting ICE and fighting the National Guard? While 1,300 fucking barrels of precursor chemicals to make fucking billions and billions of dollars worth of meth to be sent all out of America by cartels. The fuck are we gonna do when people like La Diabla exists, luring pregnant women, cutting them open, taking their babies, killing the women, taking their organs and say, what the fuck are we gonna do? What can you do? And is what you are doing now helping or making it worse? To really think right now. You have to really think right now. This is not easy for me, as it's not easy for you too. And you can hate me, you can call me a traitor, you can call me all whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't bother me because I know what's in my heart. I know what I know, and I know what I believe in. And I know that there's a whole lot that I don't know. And I'm surrendering right now. And I'm praying for my family, for my friends, for you to be protected. I'm praying right now for there to be a miracle for humanity, for all of us to wake up and see the real truth of what's going on, who the real traitors of humanity are, and then we all wake up from the spell. But not just wake up, but also activate into the warrior spirit to take back this world from the controlling powers that be right now. That's what I pray for every day. For humanity to come together, to realize the truth, to realize the evil that has been taking place, to realize all the spells that have been woven, to break free from them together. That's what I pray for.